So what if I told you that one of the richest people on the planet, a guy who commands this massive empire of rockets and electric cars, once bet every single penny he had and came within just a couple of hours of losing it all? Yeah, this isn't your typical success story. This is a financial investigation. We're going to dig into how a man stared right into the abyss and what he had to become to claw his way back. So let's open the case file.
Our whole investigation, it starts with a number. That's it, just 2. Now, what in the world could that mean? Well, behind this single digit is one of the craziest, most high-stakes gambles in the history of modern business. 2 hours. That's all it was. That was the razor-thin margin between the survival of everything Elon Musk had ever built and complete, total, catastrophic failure. To really get how he ended up in a spot like that, we've got to go back to a moment that he himself called the absolute darkest of his life.
Okay, let's wind the clock back to the end of 2008. The entire world is in the middle of a massive financial meltdown, right? And for Elon Musk, it was, in his own words, the worst year of my life. Both of his big dreams, his fledgling companies, Tesla and SpaceX, were right on the brink of complete collapse. You have to understand the whole picture here. Musk had poured his entire fortune from selling PayPal, $180 million, into these two companies. By the end of 2008, he was personally broke. I mean, living on loans from friends just to make rent. And on top of all that, he was going through a really painful divorce. Everything, absolutely everything was on the line. So he's facing this impossible choice. Over at SpaceX, the first 3 launches of his Falcon 1 rocket had all ended in, fiery disaster. He had just enough money left for one more try. If that 4th one failed, the company was done. Meanwhile, Tesla was just burning through cash like crazy. And with the financial crisis, no investors would touch it. So he had to decide, does he split his last bit of cash and risk both companies going under? Or does he pick one to save and let the other one die? You know what he did? He decided to risk it all on both of them. And just look at how close this thing came to disaster. On September 28th, that do-or-die 4th Falcon 1 launch, it works. It actually reaches orbit. And that gave NASA the confidence they needed. So just 2 days before Christmas, boom, they award SpaceX a massive, life-saving $1.6 billion contract. But Tesla was still sinking. The financing deal to save that company didn't close until 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, literally the last hour of the last possible day before the company would have gone bankrupt. The next day, payroll checks would have bounced.
A brush with financial ruin that close, it just begs the question, right? How does somebody even develop that kind of all-or-nothing mentality? Well, to find that answer, our investigation has to go back even further. We're going to a series of humiliating meetings in Russia that would end up forging his entire philosophy on how to run a business.
The year is 2001. Now, before SpaceX was even a thought, Musk had this, well, kind of strange plan. And it all started with a trip to Moscow that was going to change absolutely everything.
See, his first goal wasn't even to build his own rockets, it was to buy them. He wanted to get his hands on some refurbished Russian ICBMs, the kind that carry nuclear warheads, to launch a tiny greenhouse, or maybe some mice, all the way to Mars. The whole point was just to create this huge spectacle, something to get the public excited about space again. But the trips to Russia, they were a complete catastrophe. Musk, this new dot-com millionaire, is flying coach to save a few bucks. The meetings were just chaotic, fueled by endless vodka toasts every few minutes until his team was literally passing out at the table. The Russian aerospace establishment, they just saw him as a total joke. At one point, a chief designer actually spat on him. And in the final meeting, when Musk offers $8 million for 2 missiles, they just laughed in his face, called him little boy, and basically said he didn't even have the money. He was humiliated. He stormed out. But on that long flight back home from Moscow, something shifted. While his colleagues were drowning their sorrows, Musk pops open his laptop. He turns to them, shows them a spreadsheet he'd been working on, and says those fateful words. He had done the math. And this spreadsheet, this was the secret he'd uncovered. It showed that the actual raw materials to build a rocket, the aluminum, the titanium, the carbon fiber, that was only about 2% of the crazy price the Russians were asking for. The other 98%? That was just bureaucratic bloat and profit. This was the light bulb moment. He realized the problem wasn't the rocket itself. It was the entire system for building it. A system he was convinced he could break. So that realization he had on the plane, it became his secret weapon. It evolved into this brutal but incredibly effective management philosophy
that was designed to wage a fanatical war on inefficiency, on high costs, on anything that wasn't dictated by the pure laws of physics.
He actually calls it the idiot index. It's a really simple ratio. You just take the final cost of any given part and you divide it by the cost of its raw materials. If that number is crazy high, it means your design is way too complex or your manufacturing process is bloated and inefficient. In his words, if the ratio is high, you're an idiot.
And here is a perfect real-world case file on the idiot index. So during the development of the Raptor engine, a financial analyst brings up this one part, the half-nozzle jacket. The finished cost was $13,000. Musk immediately knew it was just a piece of steel. The raw material cost? Around $200. That's a ratio of 65-to-1. This is exactly the kind of inefficiency that drives him absolutely insane. And this is what he actually said to that young analyst in the meeting. The guy didn't know the raw material costs off the top of his head. Musk told him he had very badly failed, and that if it happened again, he was out. See, this isn't just some abstract management philosophy. It's a culture of brutal, personal accountability. And it was all born from that one spreadsheet on a plane.
This way of thinking eventually got written down into what he calls the algorithm, a 5-step mantra he drills into everyone. Step 1. Question every single requirement, especially if it comes from a smart person. Step 2. Delete any part or process you possibly can. Step 3. Then, and only then, simplify and optimize what's left. Step 4. Accelerate it, make it faster. And finally, the very last step is to automate. He says his biggest mistake at Tesla was trying to automate way too early.
But this algorithm, this relentless, fanatical drive for efficiency, it has a dark side. And to find it, our investigation now moves to the crime scene. The Tesla factory floor during the chaotic ramp-up of the Model 3, a period that Musk himself called production hell.
Now, you've probably heard the stories. Musk famously said he was sleeping on the factory floor, right? It created this image of a leader down in the trenches with his troops. But our investigation uncovered a pretty different story. While he had a private conference room set up as a bedroom, personal security, even a custom bathroom built for him, former employees describe a completely different reality. We're talking grueling 12 to 16-hour shifts, with some people just collapsing to sleep on the concrete floor wherever they could find a spot.
The accounts from inside production hell are, well, they're pretty grim. Workers talked about developing this zombie-like trance they called the Tesla stare, just from pure exhaustion, fueled by all the free Red Bull they could drink to stay awake. In one really shocking incident, a raw sewage pipe burst and flooded part of the factory floor. And when workers hesitated to go in, a former employee claims they were told, "Just walk through it, we have to keep the line going." This was the human price of hitting those production targets.
So that brings us to the end of our investigation. We've seen the near bankruptcy, we've seen the humiliation in Russia that forged this whole new way of thinking, and we've seen the very real human cost of that relentless philosophy. So now, the verdict? Well, that's up to you.
The evidence we've laid out presents a deep, deep conflict. On one hand, you have a visionary genius who, through sheer force of will and this first principles thinking, completely revolutionized two massive industries. But on the other hand, you have a brutal taskmaster whose methods created work environments that some have described as modern-day sweatshops. So the question is, are these two things inseparable?
I mean, the results are undeniable, right? His methods gave us reusable rockets, and that has fundamentally changed our access to space forever. But after weighing all the evidence, the final question remains. Was it worth the price? That's something for you to decide.